Hello, esports fans, and welcome here to this game of StarCraft that was found on reddit.com/r/castit. And we will have spawning here in the upper right-hand position of Neoplanet S as our red Protoss. It is NVRLand, which I'm assuming stands for Neverland. And then his opponent down in the bottom left-hand position, spawning as our blue Terran. It will be DreadSleep. Now let's see what these players decide to go for here on Neoplanet S. A rather small map with that very nice defensible natural expansion place, but those wide open third bases both up here with 3 possible attack paths up into it, as well as this one down here that has those 2 attack paths. Very wide open third bases, not easy to defend, not the easiest map to go into long macro games on. They still do happen, it's just not the easiest of maps for that. So let's see what these players decide to go for, as it looks like Neverland's just scouting around the map a little bit, looking for proxies. Went up into his third base to make sure, not his actual third base, the potential third base on the top of the map to make sure there was nothing there, and then sends his probe out across the map towards his opponent's base, trying to get a nice early read on what his opponent is doing. And his opponent, DreadSleep, is going for that nice basic barracks at the wall off. Wants to get that up. Let's see if he can get the supply depot down right before the probe gets in. But no, the probe gets in, and Neverland will get a full scout on what his opponent is doing. We'll see that gas timing and should know, if not see, the Reaper pop out of the barracks there, as DreadSleep is adding on that orbital command center to get those mules and scans down nice and early. And we see that Neverland is getting his cybernetics core as well as his gateway. He's got one of those gas geysers up and running already, continuing to get a lot of probes out onto the map and sending another probe out. Looks like he's getting ready to start thinking about taking that expansion point down at his natural base, saving up the money for that. He did, I believe, see the Reaper. The Reaper killed off his probe, and the Reaper is now moving out across the map. The expansions have gone down for both players. Neverland obviously having to toss his down at the base, but thanks to that wonderful flying feature of Terran buildings, DreadSleep is able to build his in the safer high ground position, and is now adding on the reactor core so he can get lots of Marines out of that barracks. The Reaper is now up into the base of Neverland, and is not going to go for just simple scouting, is going to try to kill off probes, but the mothership core pops out and is going to send that Reaper packing. That Reaper might be able to get 1 or 2 more shots off and get an additional scouting, because it can outrun the mothership core, but it cannot engage anything in combat at this point. Also, a Stalker is being constructed for Neverland. He wants to kill off that Reaper and defend his base as much as he can. The Reaper is now popping back up into the base. Juke the mothership core a little bit there. Is going to try to kill off a probe in passing. Focusing, firing down that one. It already had hurt a lot, and it does take it out, bringing it up to 2 probe kills at this point. It did kill off the scouting probe, but now the Stalker is out and is being microed out towards that Reaper, which does in the end get away. The expansions of both these players should be finishing up shortly. A sentry is on the way for Neverland. He wants to be able to toss that down, get those force fields, and try to trap that Reaper into a location. The Reaper is looking like it's thinking about popping back up here, trying to get an additional scout in, but right into, the Stalker didn't aggro on it. It was just out of range, but the mothership core and the Stalker are both right there, and they should be able to kill off, the mothership. Photon overcharge ability was used on the mothership to kill off that Reaper. That might be considered a little overkill, but it worked, and nothing should be coming out anytime soon, so the mothership should be able to regen a lot of that energy before it's needed again. Marines being pulled down to the low ground to help defend this base that DreadSleep is now pulling down into his natural expansion. He's also tossing down his first factory. He has 3 barracks producing, getting those Marauders, getting those Marines, and I believe he does indeed, yes, have Stimpack being researched, which is that oh-so-vital upgrade for your Marine Marauder force. That also does indicate to us that DreadSleep will be playing. Also, the 3 barracks indicate to us that DreadSleep will be playing a Marine Marauder, more biocentric force this game, as he also tosses down the engineering bay so he can start getting those upgrades for this army. But Neverland beat him to those upgrades with those double forges, tossing down that +1 ground armor and +1 weapons. Neverland will have the upgrade advantage in this game, as he is at this point defending his natural expansion, getting a good saturation up on that base, tossing down that pylon in that little crevice so no forces can be tricksy and abuse that hole in the supply line to kill off workers. The starport is on the way from DreadSleep. He will be getting those medevacs out soon. He might even start going for some drop play here. There will be no Hellbat harass this game because there is no armory at this point. That would be a pretty late time to start tossing that down. So drops will most likely be more biocentric. This entire play will be more biocentric, as that first bio army does actually start to push out across the map, consisting of these Marines and Marauders without medevac support. Although that starport did just finish, medevacs should soon be a thing that DreadSleep starts to produce. And what does Neverland have to prevent this? He has a lot of sentries, a Stalker and a Zealot, as well as that Mothership Core that does, once again, have enough energy for that Photon Overcharge ability to help defend this Nexus. That Pylon did spot what's going on here. This single Marine will be killed off by the Zealots. Additional Zealots being morphed in. Zealot Charge is being researched. Zealot Charge is just amazing for tearing through those bio armies of the Terran player that just do not counter Zealots very well. More Marines and Marauders being sent out across the map here. Looks like DreadSleep is going to, at this point, try to push up into the base of Neverland. Neverland pulling back to the high ground. I don't think he thinks he can defend the low ground, but he's going to have to if he wants to keep these probes alive. The Photon Overcharge ability being baited out, and then the army of DreadSleep retreats. He will most likely wait out the ending of that ability. Does not want to engage while that's going on, but Neverland's extending a little bit here. It looks like he wants to go for this. Those force fields cut off the back of the army, and those Zealots charge in. But all of the bio pulls around behind those shields, force fields, and nothing was really lost or gained in that attack for either player. The only thing that was gained was that Photon Overcharge was baited out. Additional Zealots being morphed in here. The Zealot Charge is almost done. That will greatly increase the power of those Zealots. Also, the +1 ground weapons and armor upgrade is done for Protoss, where I do not believe Terran has either. Terran actually has +1 infantry weapons finished, as well as Stimpaks. Combat shields are almost done, as well as the armor was actually just recently started. That very forward pylon was canceled because that would be very hard to hold, but this drop of DreadSleeps is going to pull around behind the army of Neverland and drop into his mineral line. Archons are now being morphed into the front line of Neverland from those High Templar that just pulled out because, this drop is going to try to snipe off these upgrades, and I think he's going to get them because nothing can get back there in time. The first forge does fall, and that upgrade was canceled. The second forge falls as well. That was a huge pickup for DreadSleep. The +2 ground weapons and armor upgrades that was almost done for Neverland were canceled, and then the forces pushed down into the natural expansion, taking out a lot of pylons. They have not yet gotten the Nexus, and they're going to be trapped there because those Zealots do charge in and deal massive damage to that Bioforce. But there's another drop up in the main, which is going to try to snipe off this Cybernetics Core, as well as that Pylon. The Pylon didn't depower anything because there was the second one down here, but now the army of Neverland is there, and DreadSleep is forced to retreat, picking off just that pylon. That was a good hold from Neverland, although losing those forges was devastating. Those upgrades are now going to be a huge disadvantage for him, as the Terran player is finishing up +1 infantry armor, which will tie the upgrades on both players. He's also finishing up his engineering bay, and his armory should be done momentarily, which means that the Terran player can start getting those level 2 upgrades going, and will have an upgrade advantage from there because the forges have still not... the forges must have been rebuilt because he's getting cannons. He does indeed have 2 forges rebuilt. Okay. And the Terran player adding on that armory just so he can get those level 2 upgrades, adding on additional barracks. This Terran player DreadSleep is getting these production facilities rolling and should have enough to start pushing out across the map and just become absolutely terrifying. DreadSleep is going to have to realize, though, that this third base for Neverland is established. He did see that with that Marine. He's going to have to abuse the fact that Protoss now has a large surface area to defend and kill him off as best he can. And how is he going to do that? He is sending 3 dropships out across the map, and behind it he is taking his own third base. This hallucinated Phoenix from Neverland did see that big force at the front of his base, did not see this drop. The drop is landing here. It's going to push up into the base. I don't quite like that decision. I would like to see it as a drop, but I am not the players here, so it does not matter what I would like to see. It only matters what is happening. And we see that NVRLand is gathering a huge Zealot Archon force between his two bases. The very edge of it gets scanned, so most likely DreadSleep has identified that the army is between these two bases, and he will be able to push up into this natural, but there are those cannons there. It's going to be very hard to push up into. There are cannons, should be cannons being tossed down here soon, but not before the army of DreadSleep pushes up into that at the same time that another portion of his force pushes down up towards the natural. DreadSleep is stretching thin the army of NVRLand. He should be able to easily snipe off this hat nexus. And this army is going to pick up and try to fly into those cannons, but they cannot get that angle. Oh, they do sneak around right behind it, and they're going to land. No, they're going to fly up to the main base. The army of NVRLand did push back that force after that nexus was lost. But he's going to lose a couple gateways here before his army can truly get back to defend it. A single stalker being morphed in to try to keep that army back. But now the Zealots are here, and the Zealots do actually not have the best surface area to charge into here. And they kill off a couple of Marines, but a lot of these gateways are unpowered. And now the army is once again down here harassing this mineral line. A couple more of them getting picked up, and they are once again picked up, and they're going to be taken right back up into that little base area there where they can so easily pick off gateways and pylons that are powering gateways as well as workers. And the army, okay, the photon overcharge ability does go down. He's going to try to hold off with that. But this army that was harassing the third is now going to push down into the natural, killing off the cannons. Should start stretching thin again that army of NVRLand as he has to defend both up in his main as well as down in his natural. The army in the main, though, was cleaned up, and he is now only defending the natural, and it looks like he has done it. He has forced that army back, but at what cost? What? 57 workers to the 49? Income is roughly the same. It was actually not the worst losses, but it leaves NVRLand on the back foot. DreadSleep is now in control of what's going on in this game. Saw those High Templars and is getting those ghosts out onto the map so as to kill those off with those EMP abilities. Flying now out a fourth base to the two bases of NVRLand, but NVRLand is getting those Colossi on the way, as well as that extended thermal lance upgrade that gives those Colossus just a spectacular range on the map. They can sit behind the army comp and just tear through everything. The first Colossi is done, the second one is almost halfway done, and there are no Vikings on the field for DreadSleep. He does not know that he is going to need to defend against those Colossi, but he's starting to add Hellbats into the composition, and Hellbats are just an amazing counter to this Zealot heavy composition. Just that huge amount of splash damage that the Hellbat does will just absolutely wreck those Zealots, and there are already a lot of Hellbats out onto the map. We'll have to see just if NVRLand can get the perfect engagement angle here. He might be able to hold this off, or if DreadSleep is just building just the perfect counter to everything that NVRLand has on the map at this point, even tossing down a planetary fortress here at his fourth base. But from this proxy pylon, a Zealot run by goes up into the third, and the Zealots start hacking and slashing and killing off all of these SCVs, but the SCVs are pulled, and this Hellbat Marauder comp just toasts those Zealots and kills them all off. Couple lone Zealots trying to do a little bit of damage to this orbital command, hoping that it won't get repaired and that he will eventually be able to come back down and snipe that off while it's at lower health. But this Marauder hit squad is out trying to find that pylon, and they have indeed found it. Kill it off, kill off the probe, and that is shut down. This base is trying to get reestablished up here. It's being resaturated. High Templar sitting here with that feedback ability, waiting to see those medevacs fly in, loaded with troops, full of energy, so that he can snipe them off easily. Even more Colossi being added on here, going up to 2 Colossi production at a time. But this is where it's really going to hurt. The Terran army is almost at +3 armor, +3 weapons, and Protoss was already there. Okay, Protoss has the upgrade lead at the moment, but that window is quickly closing, and it looks like no combat will be met till we are... Oh no, this will be combat. This will be combat at an upgrade advantage for the Protoss player if they decide to go for it, and because of those EMPs, huge EMPs just waste the shields on all of those Protoss Zealots. Huge storms hitting everything from the Terran, though. Those Ghosts all at really low health. They do snipe off all of the Templar, but then the Zealots charge in and kill off all of the Ghosts. The supply advantage is slightly in favor of Protoss at this point. Even the Photon Overcharge ability going down. All of this Bio getting pinned down into this corner, and the Bio army just crumbles to those Zealots and Colossi and that Photon Overcharge ability. And now the Protoss player is at a huge supply advantage, morphing in additional High Templar, getting those Colossi back in production. Huge numbers of Colossi still going uncountered. No Vikings in production. Just nothing that can kill off these Colossi. But additional Hellbats and Ghosts being produced. If those Ghosts can get perfect EMPs and just waste the shields on that entire Protoss army, this could be a good combat for the Terran player. But it won't be, because those Zealots just charge right in and get into combat with those Ghosts. Those Ghosts do try to lay down the EMPs. They do destroy all of the shields on the Zealot, but the Colossi are still there. The Colossi have no counter. The Vikings are now starting to be produced 3 at a time, but there are already 4 Colossi in the field. A 5th is just finishing up now. This is just the Viking production might be just too little, too late at this point. And the 4th base here should fall. If not fall, it will all be killed off. That missile turret gets taken out, and there's nothing here to kill off those Colossi. The SCVs being pulled and running for their lives. The Archons trying to take out the command center. The barracks falling quickly. They're just going to be left to burn down. The SCV should be pulled back to repair those. And a very, very forward proxy location being established here. And this might be the final engagement, as the Protoss player Neverland does engage up into this. Huge storms landing there, hitting those Zealots as well, though, because the Terran player pulled right back out of that. Even sacking the storm only hitting Zealots there, as the Terran player is pulling farther and farther back up into his base. Those Colossi just totally ignoring the high ground. But unfortunately, there's nothing to kill off the Vikings. The Vikings doing massive amounts of damage to those Protoss Colossi. The Viking production might not actually have been too little too late. It might have been the perfect amount at the perfect time, as additional Zealots are being morphed in, trying to kill off everything that they can. But it looks like the army in the main base may have held for now. But what can he do from here? The production is just being devastated. The natural expansion should fall. Unfortunately, fortunately though, it was almost mined out. So it's not the hugest loss. And these Vikings actually doing a wonderful job holding this choke point. Just killing off all of the Zealots that are trying to run up into that base. We do see now that we have the Terran player on one mining base up here in the north. I don't know if our Protoss player has seen that yet. He has not. He doesn't know about this mining base. He might think he is further in the lead than he is at this time. Scan going down here, trying to see if there's a base there. He does not see anything there yet. Almost mined out ahead. His natural is Neverland. Also, he does have this third base very well established. DreadSleep is trying to reestablish his own third base after that combat ended, but it looks like Neverland is not going to give up on this aggression quite yet. Those Archons coming in, trying to kill off all of those very bunch of units with that splash damage that they do in fact do. But his comp is not the strongest at this time, as he does not have very many units. And the army of DreadSleep will hold it back for now. He has to wait for this Colossi to get down there. And once that Colossi is there, he will once again push up towards that army of DreadSleep. Neverland just on the constant aggression at this phase in the game. This base, though, however, was reestablished. And we see that DreadSleep does have a vastly superior income, almost doubling that of Neverland at this moment in time, because he has two mining bases at this point. 4 bases have been established. The Colossi just falls almost instantly in that combat to those Vikings. The Viking count is just so high at this point. It's going to be very hard for those Colossi to stay alive in these low numbers for very long. This is going to be a very exciting end of this game, as it's just heavy aggression from Neverland. But DreadSleep just holding everything off with this wonderful composition that he has been able to build up throughout this game. The Viking count just came out in a high number at the perfect time. Several of those Vikings land as they realize there are no Colossi at the moment, and it is more important for them to be able to kill off the ground army. But DreadSleep might get sandwiched up into this base as huge storms hit everything for DreadSleep as it sits on that ramp, as the Zealots and Archons now charge up and start carving away at everything that is left for this Terran player. The Zealots charge back and kill off the Hellbats on the low ground. The Vikings have landed, but they are quickly picked off by those Archon, and now this command center should finally fall. And the third base has once for the final time been sacked, as it looks like there's nothing that will be able to repair that in time. A huge number of Vikings are all that remain at the moment for DreadSleep, but he is trying furiously to get his production out. 10 Marines being produced at a time, 2 Hellbats coming. He might be able to hold this a little bit longer. If he can continue to hold off this push, his one mining base should keep him in this game for a while. But now we see that the mining shift has switched over to being in a huge advantage of Neverland after that fourth third base. At the bottom of the map did fall for DreadSleep, sorry. And now it once again, Neverland is going to go for that big push up into the base of DreadSleep. And he is just carving away everything that's on that ramp with that Colossi. All of the Vikings have fallen at this point. The Colossi is going to go unchecked for quite a while. And DreadSleep leaves the game because his army was just absolutely devastated. That was a very exciting back and forth game in the middle there between these two players. Congratulations to Neverland for being able to pull that off with that amazing multi-prong hold in the early game against all of those drops and aggression from DreadSleep, and then just the constant aggression at the end of the game, just wearing away at DreadSleep's economy. It was very well played. It was very exciting. And I hope you all join me for more games of StarCraft in the future. Thank you for watching.